I'm going to invite you to have a little fun with me today. In this video, I'm going to show you how I created this little mountain landscape. It was really simple and easy to do, and the way I achieved all these textures in this piece was by using 4 watercolor techniques that make use of inexpensive materials you probably already have lying around your house. So let's get started. My name is Brett Renee. I'm an artist, and welcome to my channel. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some lines here on the paper. This is just for my own reference. I just want to create some areas here for like mountains and trees and a field. And you don't have to do this. If you just want to just go for it and just start laying down color and just figure out the sections as you go completely spontaneously, that's all perfectly fine. I just want to make sure that I get enough, this is for my reference, I just want to make sure that I put enough sections in here to show you all the things I have promised to show you in this video. So right now I'm just drawing through some hills. I'm just going to put a bunch of little hills here so the landscape just kind of flows back, give it some depth. Okay, so there's my last 2 lines. Now I'm ready to paint. So I'm going to start with the sky, and this is going to be amazing. I'm going to use some cerulean blue and some cobalt. I find that cerulean blue, I mean, even in the best quality paints, which this is a really good quality paint, I think this is Daniel Smith, it tends to get a bit grainy, and so you don't get as much pigment on the paper, which sometimes is really nice, but I'm going to add a little cobalt here just to amp it up a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and just fill in my sky area. Okay. Yeah, and no rules here, just getting it in. Can be darker in some places, lighter in others, it doesn't really matter. Just having fun laying down some color. Okay? All right, that's done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this everyday toilet paper. And this is so fun and so easy. I'm just going to crunch it up and I'm going to make some beautiful puffy clouds that are going to look really professional. So the way this works is the more pressure you put, the more white space you're going to get. And then you can also just subtly tap at it and get like more subtle clouds. I'm just kind of pushing that around and pulling a little bit of paint up. And you want to make sure you do use the toilet paper and not a rag, because a rag won't pull up as much color. And there you go. I've got beautiful, realistic clouds, super easy. Okay, so now what I'm doing, I'm going to put in some flowers on the hill in the front, just because I want to. Again, no rules, we're just having some fun here. This is quinacridone pink, and I'm just kind of blotting in some shapes, just randomly, whatever feels good. It really doesn't matter, because I'm going to do something else fun with these flowers. So I'm just going to put them all over my hill here, as if we're having a beautiful spring bloom. Okay. Liking that. Thinking maybe I'll do a couple more just here at the top. All right, that looks good. So now I'm going to use this everyday alcohol that you probably have lying around. Now you can use an eyedropper for this. I couldn't find mine, so I'm using my brush, and I'm just going to dab or drip in some alcohol into the flowers. And what this is going to do is move the paint around, and you're going to get all these different variations in the tone, which is going to look like I actually painted some really cute flowers. But you can see, I'm trying to try and get close up there, how the paint moves. Really cool. And almost no effort to do this. Okay, so next, I'm also going to add some cadmium red flowers on my other hill. I'm just going to put those in. I don't think I'm going to add a lot here, but I just want to make it look like this hill is kind of behind the other hill. So I'll make these flowers a little bit smaller, as if it's moving back. And I'm not going to put a lot. There's not as much bloom on this hill. That's just because that's what I want to do right now. All right. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do these mountains. And I'm not going to use any household items on this. I'm just going to do a standard watercolor technique, which is wet and wet. So I'm going to lay the water into the shape I allotted for the mountains first. And you can add a good amount of water for this. You don't want it to dry too quickly. You want the paint to do the work. So, mountains have a lot of different variations in colors, and you can either sit there and drive yourself crazy and try to do all these little details and, pinks and blues and purples, or you can just let the paint do it and it's gonna look amazing. So I'm gonna put all this water here in my shape, and then I'm just gonna drop in some purple and some blue. So I'm using violet. I think this is a Winsor & Newton color. And you can add it thick in places and thin in places and dark and light, and just let it, you can see I've got enough water, so it's just kind of moving itself around. So the paint's just going to create this mountain texture with the water. And then I'm going to add some French ultramarine. This is also a Winsor & Newton color. And I'm going to let that just kind of blend with the purple and blend into the water. And I'm going to let the mountain create itself. And the nice thing about wet and wet is you do have time. So if you get enough water down and you don't like something, or you don't think it's dark enough in a certain place, or you don't like what's happening, you can kind of mess with it and you can blend things, and you can really play with this for a while before it's dry. I'm not going to do too much with this. I'm just going to let the paint do what the paint wants to do and make me a pretty purpley blue mountain. Okay, just a couple last little touches here. All right. We'll smooth that out. And I think that's good. Okay, so now I'm going to fill in my field. I want to have a little field here, and I want to put a really fun color in here. So I'm putting a lot of lemon yellow with a touch of spring green. It's going to be kind of this chartreusey neon green, which is, again, I'm not going for realistic colors here. I'm just going for fun colors here. I'm just having fun just laying color down on the paper and just making a fun landscape with lots of texture. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this in. I love this color, especially against the purple. It's really pretty. Okay, and this is a nice, good size chunk of space in the middle of the painting. Nice place to really put some good color in. Okay, I'm going to fill this last space, and again, just lay some paint in. Make sure I've got a good amount of it. Then I'm going to let this dry, and once it's dry, I'm going to come back and do the next section. Okay, now we're dry. So now I'm going to fill in one of these hills that is right there next to my limey green field. I'm going to use some cobalt teal blue. I love this color. It's kind of sea glassy. And I'm adding this in, and then I'm going to also add in some spring green on top of it, and just let the two colors sort of mix together on the paper. But unlike the wet and wet, when I have a lot of water down, I'm kind of letting this be a little less wet and a little more defined. So I have some very strong blue areas and some strong green areas, but there's places that they do mix together. And that'll give it its own form of texture here without me really having to do anything except just lay paint down. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in this mountain behind my main mountain. Now, as the mountains go back, they will get lighter in tone and color. So I am going to use some blue again, but I'm using the French ultramarine, and I'm going to add a little bit of Payne's gray, not a lot, but just a little bit to kind of tone it down a touch. It looks like it's fading like into the sky. And I'm gonna add a bit of water so it's not too dark, because I want the front mountain dark, and then this one's actually gonna be a bit lighter. I'm gonna get up close here and let you see. So you can see that just that touch of gray in there really tones that blue down. It's not as vibrant as in the front mountain. And you know, if you wanted to, you could even leave some white space in here to make it look like there's snow on that mountain behind the front mountain, but I'm doing a spring scene and I'm gonna assume that everything's melted off by now. You don't have to be that careful with this, but I'm just trying to define each mountain. Let it be its own mountain. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right. So now I'm going to deal with this area I left. I want it to be sort of like there's trees. And I'm going to do something really fun here, and this is going to use another household item to give us some really good texture right in the middle of the painting. So I'm using Hooker's green and some of that cobalt teal blue, and I'm not using a very realistic tree color. I want something that's really going to pop here and pull focus in the middle of the painting. So it's going to bring us right into where the mountains are and where these trees are going to be. So you can see this is a nice vibrant green. It looks great next to that lime green and against the purple. It's a lot of fun. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in this whole section, and I am leaving a bit of water, and you'll see why in a minute. This is pretty wet paint. Okay. So I've got this all filled in. And now I'm also going to add on top of this some quinacridone pink, just to give it some contrast. I'm going to add this into the green. It does turn a little bit like a dark purple, which is great. So it's going to give me this darker area in the middle of the painting. And this is going to smear a little bit because I have left a bit of water, which you'll see why in a second. All right, so now what I'm going to add on top of this is just everyday salt. I have sea salt in the house, so it's actually sea salt we're putting in. And I'm just gonna sprinkle this onto the wet paint. And what this is gonna do, the salt is kind of, it pulls the water up and along with it a little bit of pigment, and so it helps everything kind of blend and smear, and it really creates this really neat, grainy, fun texture. So I'm just gonna put this on here and just let it dry. Okay, now that I'm done with that, I'm going to move to the bottom of the painting now, and I'm going to deal with this section where I'm also going to do something really fun with texture. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to put some color down. I'm going to use the same Hooker's green and cobalt teal blue. I'm not going to go quite as dark. I'm going to go a little more mid-tone in this area. Good. I'm just going to fill this shape in. That's it. Indicate hills. Okay, so now this is all getting filled in, and I'm going to take this plastic wrap, everyday cling film, and I'm going to lay it down on my shape, and you want to scrunch it up a little bit and get a lot of different little bends and creases here, and push it really well into the paint, like just press it down, and you're gonna leave it to dry. So it takes about 20 minutes to dry. Okay, this is now dry, so I'm going to lift it up, and you'll see all these beautiful shapes and textures that happened underneath the plastic wrap, and I didn't have to do anything. That did it for me. And that creates some nice contrast against the other mountains and the field. Now what I'm going to do is just fill in the grassy area around my flowers, and I am going to do this a little bit more intentionally. I don't want to just paint over these beautiful flowers that were formed from the alcohol. So I'm just going to softly just move the paint around the shapes here. And as I go, I think I am going to do a little blotting with my tissue, just lightly, just to give it look like a little sunlight is on the grass. And then I'll just finish this area up. Just doing it quickly in sections. All right, then I'm going to do my other hill, and I think this one with the red flowers, I'm going to go a little darker, as if the sunlight didn't hit here. Again, just creating some more contrast down here. Just some nice complementary colors, the red and the green together. And I might blot a little bit of this, just to give it a little bit of texture, but this I'm going to let be a little more solid. And I'm just trying to create different areas and different effects in each little section of this painting. Okay, and now I've got everything covered, which is fantastic. All right, so just a few more things to do, I think. I'm going to soften this line between the field and the salty area where I'm trying to create that tree effect. So I'm just putting a little water here and pulling some of the salt and pigment down into that line, just to make it a little more uneven, make it look a little more natural, like it's just kind of flowing into each other and not so much like section 1, section 2. So that's good. Now it looks a little bit wilder. I guess I like that. And I'm also going to take some of this spring green with a little bit of water in it, nothing too dark, and a little bit yellow too. And I'm just going to put that over my limey green area, just to again create a little bit of subtlety of tone, so that there's some lighter areas and a little bit darker areas. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little splattering, which is always fun. So this hill here, where I had just the two colors kind of mixing together on the paper, I'm going to splatter as if there's some flowers in the distance. So these little splatters will look like faraway flowers. Right. I think I need a little bit more on the top of that hill. I've just got my paper there just so it doesn't get into the lime green area. I want to avoid that. And just put the pigment on and just tap, real gentle. I like that. That looks good. It looks like my salt is dry. So with the salt, you can just leave it. It's a little messy, but you can just leave it there. But I'm going to actually rub some of this off, and you'll see some of the paint will go with it. But it just leaves this really beautiful, interesting texture. You can see all the paints kind of mixed together, and I like what it did at the bottom of the mountains. That's kind of fun too. Okay, so that is it. That's my painting, and I hope this was fun for you. Let's get a good look there. If you like this video, give it a like or subscribe. That would be really great. And thanks for joining me today. I'll see you on the next one.